There are plenty of highlights, achievements, events, accolades, and records that Michael Jordan wants you to remember about his 15-year career. On the contrary, however, here are 15 things he would like you to forget. One thing Jordan definitely doesn't want you to forget, though, is to follow the Sportster on YouTube. Simply subscribe by hitting the button on your screen now. His pre-Pippen playoff record. In his Hall of Fame acceptance speech, following a montage of career highlights, Michael Jordan thanked his teammates and said, "In all the videos, you never just saw me, you saw Scottie Pippen." That statement probably held more truth than Jordan intended, because when you look at the statistics, MJ only excelled in the postseason when Pippen was by his side. In his first 3 seasons with the Chicago Bulls from 1984 to 1987, Jordan made the playoffs each year, but was swept twice in the first round and lost another series 3 games to 1. In other words, he held a 1-9 postseason record with the Bulls before Pippen joined the team beginning in 1987. Don't get us wrong though, Jordan still played well in the pre-Pippen days, and we're not saying it's next to impossible for him to win a playoff game without his favorite teammate, but it only happened a single time in his 15-year career. His Pistons elimination. Even after Scottie Pippen came to Chicago, it wasn't smooth sailing for Jordan and his team, as they had a seemingly unbeatable foe standing in their way in the playoffs year after year. For 3 straight postseasons from 1988 to 1990, the Bulls had their championship dreams crushed by Isaiah Thomas and the bad boys of the Detroit Pistons, who eliminated Chicago every year, every time. Jordan was on top of his game, but he couldn't compete with the Jordan rules method of defense, which basically involved double or triple teaming MJ anytime he touched the ball. In response, Jordan hit the weight room to improve his strength, and the Bulls eventually conquered their longtime foes in 1991. However, Jordan was still sore over the previous embarrassing eliminations and famously refused to play on the 1992 Olympic Dream Team if Thomas was also a member of the squad. His penchant for punching teammates. Back in 2015, former 4-time NBA AllStar Horace Grant told a story about Michael Jordan punching a teammate in the face, which has just been a rumor up until that point. The victim was allegedly 7-foot 1-inch center Will Perdue, who was instructed by Bulls coach Johnny Back to repeatedly set up hard and sometimes illegally screen against MJ during practice one day. After a particularly strong screen, Jordan advised Perdue to cut it out, but he nevertheless stood his ground on the very next play and knocked Jordan off his feet. In response, Michael clocked him square in the eye, and the two had to be separated. All this sounds pretty far-fetched until Perdue himself confirmed the story 2 days after Grant's interview. And this wasn't the only confirmed instance of Jordan's short fuse. Steve Kerr previously revealed that he too was once served with his Airness signature knuckle sandwich during a practice in the mid-90s. His baseball career. Following the death of his father, Michael Jordan retired from basketball on October 6, 1993, citing a lack of desire to play the game. However, Jordan announced he would return to professional sports on February 7, 1994, except this time he wanted to try his hand at baseball, which was always his dad's favorite sport. Since the owner of the Chicago Bulls also owned the Chicago White Sox, Jordan was quickly signed by the Southsiders and assigned to the team's AA minor league affiliation in Alabama. In 127 games and 497 plate appearances with the Birmingham Barons, Jordan compiled a batting average of just .202, with a lowly .556 OPS, 3 homers, and 51 RBIs. By the end of the 1994 season, MJ had struck out 114 times while notching only 88 hits. He returned to basketball the following season, citing the ongoing MLB strike, but we're not so sure that was the real reason. His meeting with the answer. Although Michael Jordan is best known as a prolific scorer, he was an incredibly skilled defender who made the NBA All-Defense First Team 9 times and was rarely embarrassed on the court. One of the few instances of Jordan getting knocked back to earth came just 20 years ago, on March 12, 1997. That day, the mighty Bulls were facing off against the lowly 76ers, who had a new rookie and a number 1 draft pick from Georgetown named Allen Iverson. At one point in that game, Iverson and Jordan met one-on-one at the Arc, and Iverson famously crossed over his childhood idol and drained a shot on his way to a 37-point night. The Sixers eventually lost, but there's no doubt that his Airness remembered being duped. Years later, Iverson attended a Charlotte Hornets game and had a chance to personally meet his hero and tell him how much he meant to him. Still salty about the 1997 incident, Jordan snarkily replied, "Well, I couldn't have been too much of a hero to you if you crossed me like that." His worst playoff game ever. Nobody is perfect, and everybody has bad days they'd like to forget about. For Michael Jordan, that day was May 26, 1997. The Bulls were playing the Miami Heat in Game 4 of the conference finals, with just a 2-1 series lead, and having lost the previous game, were looking to bounce back. His airness logged 45 minutes in this game, but only managed 29 points and 1 assist. This doesn't seem terrible until you consider the fact that he only made 26% of his field goals, going 9 for 35 and not making a single one of his 3-point shots all night. It didn't help his case that Jordan admittedly played 48 holes of golf the previous day. Chicago ended up dropping that game to Miami 87-80 to even the series, but pulled off a win in Game 5 to advance to the finals, where MJ won his 5th of 6 championship rings when the Bulls beat the Jazz in 6 games. His 2001 draft picks. With All-Stars Tyson Chandler, Paul Gasol, Zach Randolph, Tony Parker, Gilbert Arenas, and Joe Johnson all available, the Washington Wizards used their first overall pick in the 2001 NBA Draft to select Kareem Brown. In case you don't remember, Brown not only never made an All-Star game, but spent his entire professional tenure underperforming, injured, or feuding with teammates. And who selected the man widely regarded as one of the biggest busts in NBA history? That would of course be Michael Jordan, who was hired as the Wizards' president of basketball operations on January 19, 2000. Although Jordan also managed to clear roster space and get rid of unpopular players, his first stint as an exec was completely marred by his first draft pick. And it was likely one of the factors that led to Jordan to ditch the tie and lace up his sneakers once again in the summer of 2001. Let's take a short break from things MJ wants you to forget and instead test your memory. Exactly how many gold medals has Michael won at the Olympics? Stay with us until the end for the answer. His 2002 All-Star performance. The NBA All-Star Game is all for fun, and the results and statistics are meaningless, but somehow we think Michael Jordan would still like fans to forget about one particular play during the 2002 event. On a wide-open fast break in the first quarter, Jordan was passed the ball and took it to the hoop without a defender in sight. As we've seen the former 2-time NBA Slam Dunk Contest champion do hundreds of times, he gracefully leapt in the air, flipped the ball towards the hoop one-handed, and missed. The ball hit the side of the rim and harmlessly bounced down to the floor to the shock of everyone present. Then again, this took place in the second to last year of Jordan's career, so maybe it wasn't so surprising. Although his airness laughed off the play, it was part of a night where he shot 4 of 13 from the field and only scored 8 points. His Washington Wizards tenure. As Neil Young famously said, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Apparently, Jordan wasn't down with the godfather of grunge since he emerged from retirement in 2001 not to sign on for a 14th season with the Chicago Bulls, but instead with the Washington Wizards. His first year in DC ended after 60 games thanks to a right knee injury, but he stayed healthy for a full season from 2002 to 2003, even though he had come off the bench for a record 15 times. Jordan still held his own on the court during the final 2 years of his career, especially for a man approaching and turning 40, but he nevertheless logged some of the worst statistics of his career and likely would have preferred to end on a much higher note. Although Washington sold out every home game with Jordan on their team, they missed the playoffs in both years. His 2006 draft picks. Michael Jordan has been in talks to buy a minority stake in the Charlotte Bobcats for a while, and it finally came to fruition when he was named a manager of basketball operations in June 2006, just prior to that year's NBA draft. It was important for Jordan to make a splash in the first season, especially after the Quan Brown fiasco, and he and the Bobcats did so by selecting Adam Morrison of Gonzaga with the 3rd overall pick. Although Morrison had recently been named the WCC Player of the Year and first-time All-WCC while leading the entire NCAA in scoring among Division I players, the 6'8" forward fell flat in the NBA. Morrison either underperformed or was injured during his time with the Bobcats, and in February 2009, the team officially gave up on their former first-round pick and shipped him off to the Lakers. Jordan had made a splash all right, but it was for all the wrong reasons. His internet meme. In September 2009, Michael Jordan was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Present at the ceremony were his former coaches Dean Smith and Doug Collins, as well as past teammates Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, Charlie Oakley, and Tony Kukoc. Following a video filled with career highlights and an extended standing ovation from everyone present, Jordan took the stage to give his acceptance speech and immediately began tearing up. That's when Associated Press photographer Steven Sevilla snapped a now iconic photo of a red-eyed Jordan in full waterworks mode, which was later made into a meme and became a viral sensation. The crying Jordan meme was plastered all around the internet and photoshopped into endless number of places to signify sadness in a lighthearted and somewhat cruel way. We're not saying MJ is ashamed of his tears or wants you to forget his emotions, but after 8 years, we're certain he wants this meme to disappear. His Hall of Fame acceptance speech. Once Jordan was able to compose himself, he began his acceptance speech by thanking a lot of the family members, coaches, and teammates who helped him become one of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball. However, his appreciative remarks soon turned into thinly veiled shots at his doubters, his former foes, and anyone who ever stood in his way. While that might be okay in a general sense, it's unnecessarily crossed the line when Jordan began singling out people by name. He mentioned the media naysayers, the guy who made the high school varsity basketball team ahead of him, and the coach who made the decision. He called out Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, and George Gervin for refusing to pass him the ball during his rookie season AllStar game, and even former Bulls GM Jerry Krause for not giving him nearly enough credit. Jordan might not look back and regret this childish behavior during what should have been a respectful and humble speech, but he absolutely should. His Hitler mustache. To be perfectly honest, the facial hairstyle known as the toothbrush mustache is actually a decent way to wear some upper lip hair, except for one thing. Adolf Hitler forever ruined it, and it has since been unofficially banned in society. For the record, the toothbrush stash was actually first popularized by actor Charlie Chaplin, who began wearing it when he debuted his tramp character in the 1914 film Kid Auto Race at Venice, which actually predates Hitler's growing of his own version. However, Hitler eventually became much more famous, or infamous, and thus the style has since connected to him and indefinitely shelved. So why the heck would Michael Jordan think it's okay to start wearing one in 2010? And why would Hanes allow him to do it in at least one of their commercials? As much as we'd all like to forget about Hitler and his famous facial hair, 70 years or so just isn't enough time. His party photo. Here's a funny little non-basketball story for you. In 2006, rapper Noor claimed Michael Jordan refused to appear in the video for his hit song Oh No because Jordan is a hater of hip-hop. To further illustrate this point, Noor revealed that Jordan once attended a December 2002 Def Jam Christmas party and refused to speak with anyone other than Jay-Z. Allegedly, when Redman and Method Man tried to meet him, Noor heard the GOAT say, "Forget rap," except he used a different F word. Jordan's longtime rep vehemently denied this claim and said his client was never even at the aforementioned party. Although Noor got the event wrong, it was actually Mariah Carey's charm bracelet release party. He provided a photo to the event to which he was referring. And not only is Jordan standing right behind Jay-Z, but he also has a sad, disappointed look on his face. The kind of face someone might have if they were just caught in a lie. His gambling. Saying Michael Jordan enjoys gambling is kind of like saying Ron Artest got a little fussy from time to time. The truth is, Jordan was a serious gambler who had some serious gambling issues, and still might, which isn't especially surprising considering how competitive the man is. Stories have emerged that accuse MJ of bullying his teammates into gambling with him. He once allegedly lost $1.25 million in golf bets, dropped $5 million in Atlantic City another time, and stayed out partying and gambling until 2:30 a.m. the night before a 1993 playoff game against the New York Knicks, which the Bulls ended up losing. There are even rumors that his sudden retirement in 1993 was due to an ongoing NBA investigation into his gambling habits and that Commissioner David Stern may have advised him to take a break. After all, when asked in '93 if he would ever return to the game, he specifically used the phrase, "If David Stern lets me back in the league." Do you remember how many gold medals MJ won? The answer is 2. Jordan won his first gold at the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, and another in Barcelona in 1992 on the Dream Team with Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, and Karl Malone. Did we forget any moments Michael Jordan wants you to forget? Remind us in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. For more sports highlights and memories, follow the Sportster on YouTube.